Welcome to SparkMap. SparkMap is built and run by a team of data analysts, programmers, and GIS technicians who collect, clean, and aggregate data from reliable secondary sources. We make these data available through two powerful tools, the Community Needs Assessment and MapRoom. Need to build a community needs assessment or gather more data about your community? Use SparkMap to spend less time researching and more time implementing positive change. The following video will provide examples of how you can use SparkMap. To keep up with SparkMap, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and social media accounts. Hello, and welcome to SparkMap. I'm Shay, and today we'll be talking about some poverty-specific indicators available in the SparkMap Community Needs Assessment. January is Poverty in America Awareness Month, and this webinar will help you learn more about poverty in your service area and find foundational data that you can act upon. First, I'll provide some background on poverty definitions and statistics to set the stage. Second, we'll jump to creating a community needs assessment and highlighting some poverty-related indicators. Lastly, we'll create a community needs assessment and provide examples of how the indicators could be interpreted in your work. Let's get started. To begin, let's talk about how we define and measure poverty. In the United States, the U.S. Census Bureau determines the poverty threshold based on the pre-tax income of a household, plus the number of family members living in a home for the contiguous United States. Alaska and Hawaii determine their own poverty thresholds. According to the U.S. Census Bureau in 2022, as you can see on the screen, poverty thresholds were determined by the size of the family and the number of related children under 18 years old. So in 2022, the poverty threshold was below $14,880 for a single person living alone, below $18,900 for a household with two adult family members, and below $29,950 for a family with two adults and two children sharing a home. For a comprehensive table of the poverty threshold by family size and number of children, visit the U.S. Census Bureau resource linked in the description. When I discuss our indicators later in the video, note that poverty status is determined by each household using these federal thresholds. Now that we know how the federal poverty level is determined and measured, let's address why we're talking about poverty this month. According to Poverty in America, United States 2022, published by the U.S. Census Bureau, 11.5% of Americans, or 37.9 million people, lived below the poverty threshold in 2022. A significant portion of this measurement includes children. In fact, 15% of children under the age of 18, or 10.8 million children, live below the poverty threshold in 2022. Additionally, 5.5% of the U.S. population lived below half of the poverty threshold. That's an annual income of under $7,400 for a single adult living alone. These are striking numbers, but why do they matter? Lack of economic resources can lead to diminished education, health, employment, housing, food access, and opportunity outcomes. To support your work related to poverty or any of these areas, the SparkMap team has curated 10 specific indicators in our Community Needs Assessment. Let's check them out. Now we're in our Community Needs Assessment. I'm going to skip our location for a moment and go to step 2. We're going to go ahead and click the drop-down on our Income and Economics category. And in this right-hand column, you can see our 10 poverty indicators. The first 3 relate to children in poverty. Next, we have an indicator on poverty based on household type. Our next 5 indicators look at households at various percentages of the federal poverty threshold. And lastly, we have our poverty profile, which generates a table of the percentage of the total population in households at various thresholds relative to the federal poverty level. from 50% or less to over 500%. Now, let's make a community needs assessment and look at some of these indicators in action. Typically, to create your CNA, you would go back to step 1 and enter your location. However, I've gone ahead and created a CNA already using our Pick from Map feature, which we'll look at in just a moment. The Pick from Map feature is available to SparkMap Premium subscribers and can help you create custom reports for your specific service area. To demonstrate how to use the Pick from Map feature, I searched for Green Bay, Wisconsin, and then I changed my geographic type to zip code. And for the CNA that you will see in just a moment, I went ahead and selected a few different zip codes around the Green Bay, Wisconsin area. Then you would typically proceed to step 2, select your data indicators of interest. In just a moment, I am going to switch tabs and look at our report where I selected households in poverty by family type, population below 100% FPL, and the poverty profile indicators. As a note, I added our 5-year estimate of the 100% FPL rather than our annual measure, as it tends to contain less data suppression. Now that I've switched into a report, if you've not seen a custom area community needs assessment before, I want to point out a couple of things. First, in all of the tables, you will see information for the report area, which includes all of the zip codes that I selected, plus information for each of the counties into which those zip codes fall, the state, and the country. Additionally, the maps will show my selected zip codes outlined in red. As you explore your report, it's important to carefully read the various graphs and charts, as some, like this pie chart, are only for the report location, whereas others will include different geographies too. Now that I've highlighted some unique features of this report, let's look at the data. When we get into our indicator for household in poverty by family type, we get great information on not only the number of households in poverty, but also the makeup of those households. By looking at the map, we can take a closer look at the zip codes that we selected to learn more about our service area. Let's say that I worked at a nonprofit focused on families in poverty. By opening up and zooming into the map, I can more easily see which part of zip codes within my service area have higher percentages of families living in poverty. For example, by clicking on the map, we can see that 16.33% of households in Census Tract 9 in zip code 54302 are living in poverty, whereas only 0.83% of households in the neighboring census tract, 20.01, are below the poverty threshold. Now, let's look at our population below 100% FPL indicator. Again, we can see the percent of the population below the federal poverty threshold for household type, by report location, the counties included, the state of Wisconsin, and the United States. On this indicator, we also have a handy benchmark dial, which shows that the aggregate location I selected has a lower percentage of the population below 100% of the federal poverty line than Wisconsin overall and the United States. Within this indicator, we also get breakout data for the population in poverty by gender, by ethnicity, and by race. These breakouts are helpful for us to gain more information on the demographics of folks experiencing poverty in a service area, and it can help to inform more targeted outreach efforts to combat poverty. Lastly, let's look at our poverty profile. This table shows us the percentage of the total population that lives at various levels of the federal poverty level in our service area. Being able to compare between different poverty levels, counties, the state, and the country in one table can be very helpful. First, it can add perspective to the economic status of households in your service area compared to neighboring counties and the state. It is also beneficial if you are looking for the population under a specific cutoff point for local, state, or federal programs, such as those that might be eligible for SNAP. By using the poverty profile as a starting point and adding other indicators such as the population receiving SNAP, household cost burden, health and child care access, you can dig deeper into understanding the unique needs of your service area to create more impactful grant applications, richer presentations, and more effective interventions. In this webinar, I established background on poverty measures in the United States and provided context on poverty statistics nationally. Next, I highlighted poverty-focused indicators you can use in the SparkMap Community Needs Assessment. Lastly, we created a community needs assessment for a custom area and learned more about poverty in a specific location, briefly touching on how the data in this report can provide an effective foundation for impactful community analysis and outreach. I hope this webinar was helpful. As always, please contact us on our website or at sparkmap@missouri.edu with any questions. Thank you for learning more about SparkMap. Thank you for learning more about SparkMap. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out via the contact form on sparkmap.org. Don't forget to subscribe.